So today I'm joined by Martin and Anna Astley, who are the owners and founders of Bike Park Wales. Okay, so to begin, could you both tell me a little bit about yourselves? Just like a little overview.
You go first.
So my name's Anna. What sort of overview would you like?
Just anything, background.
Anything. I grew up in Surrey. Moved over to the southwest when I went to university in Bristol, where I studied geology. I did a full U-turn and went into accountancy. Met you.
After uni.
After uni, you had a great idea of coming up with a bike park as an idea. Loved bikes. I was just getting into mountain biking at that point.
Yeah.
And ended up having some suitable skills to help open a bike park up.
Yeah.
I should probably point out that we are half of the team that started Bike Park Wales as well.
Yeah.
So there was another couple. So it was us two and Rowan and Liz, another couple who at the time we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and they were boyfriend and girlfriend, but we're all married now. So
I saw that actually on the podcast that you did on YouTube. I was watching it. I saw that. Didn't you say that you grew up in Malawi?
Yeah, so I was born in Malawi in Africa.
Yeah.
So my parents were working out there. So my dad, he was also an accountant in his career. And my mum was a nurse, so they were both working in Malawi. Dad got transferred there with his company, and mum worked in a hospital there while we were out there. So I was born there, but left when I was very young. I think I was 2 when I left, so I don't really remember it, unfortunately. My older brother does remember it a little bit. And then we came back, and I've lived in Gloucestershire since then. I grew up on kind of the other side of the Forest of Dean, closer to Gloucester. But yeah, went to uni in Bristol, same as Anna, although we didn't actually meet when we were at uni. We were there at the same time, but we never met. And then after uni, I went and travelled a bit, went to Canada, worked in Canada in a mountain bike park, which was one of the things that kind of spurred the idea for Bike Park Wales.
Yeah, and Anna, didn't you say that you moved around a bit when you were younger? Is that correct?
It is. So I was born in Essex.
Yeah.
Then we moved to Surrey. Then my dad's job took us up to Solihull in the West Midlands.
Yeah.
And then we moved back down to Surrey, so I went to 7 schools.
Wow. Did you find that a bit kind of scary if you were moving around? Like, was it a bit more difficult to like maintain friendships and things like that?
Yes, but also I found that I became really good at making friends quite quickly. So
that's actually a good angle to put it at, actually, because I guess then you get used to obviously being in new places and new surroundings.
And new people.
Yeah. So then overall then, how would you describe your childhoods as like kind of a little summary?
I'm going to ponder on that.
I would say really happy. I was really lucky. I had a great childhood and supportive parents who always encouraged me to push myself. But like me and my brother have both we've got an older brother. We've both achieved a lot in our lives. And our parents have obviously sort of drilled into us to push ourselves and to work hard and to go on. But when I look back, I don't really know why. Like, I don't remember them being pushy or telling us that we must work harder or anything like that. It must have been fairly subliminal. But they definitely raised us in a way that made us want to achieve a lot. So yeah, they created a good environment for doing that, for sure.
In my childhood, I had a younger brother who was like 3.5 years younger than me, and if I think back on it, I can recall summers running around the garden with wheelbarrows and that sort of thing. I had a lovely childhood. I've had a very happy childhood. But again, like, I guess my dad set up his own company. So for me, I've always, as far as I can remember, beyond being asked what I wanted to do when I grew up, when I was a child, and saying I wanted to be a big girl, which I feel like I have achieved. I always fancied setting up my own company.
Oh, that was going to actually lead me on to my next question. So how do you think your upbringing kind of led you into approach to like challenges and success? Do you think it kind of maybe like changed your mindset in any way, or just what was it like to kind of give you that way of thinking?
Well, I didn't think I was going to start a company at all. It hadn't even crossed my mind. that might be something that I would do.
Yeah.
Even, until I had the idea, it wasn't really something that even crossed my mind was starting a business. Whereas for you, I think that was a bit different.
But yeah, because you had the idea and I immediately latched onto it and I'm like, this is the goal that I've been waiting for my life.
So this wasn't something that you wanted to do when you were younger? Was this something that you kind of thought of when you...
No, because it didn't exist when we were younger. Like bike parks, there was no such thing. So in fact, even when we actually started our business, a bike park like the one that we've built had never been done anywhere before in the world.
Wow.
So we had an idea... So myself and Rowan, it was me and Rowan in the very beginning who kind of had the idea together and started it. But when we put our heads together and had the idea, we'd been travelling around the world and we'd seen mountain biking in lots of places, but we'd taken like little snippets of it from New Zealand, from Canada, from places in Europe, and we thought there's a model that could work in the UK here, but what we created had never been done. So we couldn't aspire to do it when we were kids because it didn't exist, and that's definitely going to be the case for the generation now. I look at our kids and goodness knows what jobs are going to look like when they grow up. I have no idea what
That's actually a good way of looking at it. So I didn't realise, obviously, because you've done travel and things like that, you've kind of taken things from different places and kind of like transformed it in a sense, which is actually a cool way of looking at it.
Yeah. I think your original question was about, did our childhoods lead us into the idea? I remember my dad always says that he thought I was going to start a business. I don't know where or how he got that from because I didn't, but he did.
Mine would have been, my desire for it would have come from, I think, seeing my dad do it himself. It was nothing on the scale of what we've done. I mean, he's like a consultant, so he's like a one-man band, goes out and I'm not quite sure what Dad does. Energy something.
Yeah.
Energy consultancy.
So I guess you didn't imagine you'd be doing this when you were younger then?
No. When I got into my late teens and early 20s and I'd left university and I got a job in a bike park, I was like, wow, this is what I want to spend my life doing, being surrounded by... I was building the trails myself at that point. I don't build the trails now. I'm just managing. But just being surrounded by passionate people, doing something we all really loved, creating something was really cool. I loved that we were creating something was really, really cool. So when I came back from that year, I was actually trying to, I don't know if I've even told you this, I was trying to set up a company to build bike parks around the world. I don't think I've ever told you this.
You've never told me this.
So we're both learning something new.
So I came back from Canada that first year and was basically pining to be there because my visa ran out, so I had to leave. So I just desperately wanted to be back in Canada building trails and working in a bike park. So myself and a friend who I'd been working with in the bike park there, we just started like bombarding ski resorts all over the world saying, hey, you should build a bike park and we're the people that should do it for you.
What were the responses?
So mixed, but actually there was a ski resort it was either Argentina or Chile, can't remember which one, who were really keen. I can't remember why we didn't end up going, but
I do this.
I very nearly went out to Argentina or Chile to help them build a bike park. And I spent, because I was back at my parents' house when I got home, did I have a job?
This is in between Canada's.
Yeah, I can't remember. I had some time at my parents a few weeks before I started a job or something. It must have been just when I met you, actually. Probably.
Oh, was that?
And I was just contacting all of these ski resorts asking them if they wanted help building a bike park. And it never came off in the end. I don't know why, but I remember spending weeks and weeks and weeks just sending hundreds of emails trying to get this started.
That is commitment. So jumping a bit more forward than your childhood then, onto education, you both went to Bristol University, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Could you both maybe tell me a bit more about that and what it was like?
I loved uni. I loved it. Some of the best years of my life.
Yeah.
I did geology and I ended up with a relatively small year group, about 30 of us, and we'd go away on field trips.
Wow.
And,
where did you go on your field trips?
all over the place.
Really?
Yeah, a lot around the UK, so Old Man Coniston, down to Cornwall, and Devon, and then we'd go away to like Greece and Naxos and Santorini.
Yeah, she went to
Wow.
amazing places. I went to
That
Cambridge,
is-
I went to Cambridge once. That was all I did.
That sounds amazing. You did that with university?
Yeah.
Wow, that actually sounds really
It was
cool.
really good. Yeah, it was incredible. Loved
Yeah.
it.
Aw.
Loads of fun. Loads of really down to earth people.
Mhm.
Yeah, in fact, it was through one of my geology friends that we got together
Yep.
and met.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it's destined then.
It must have been.
Yeah, we had mutual friends all through uni. We knew some of the same people, but
Yeah.
just never
Never
actually
met.
met.
Yeah.
And I did zoology at uni, which is not looking after animals. It's basically animal biology,
Yeah.
which I loved. Really loved it. It was brilliant. Much bigger. My course probably had 200 people on it. Mine was a 3-year honours degree, and yours was a 4-year master's degree.
Yeah.
So I took a year out between school and uni, and you didn't. So Anna actually started uni 1 year before me, but we both finished in the same year because her
Okay,
course was
so-
4 years and mine was
yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Well, they both sound like really cool subjects.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Loved
So obviously both those subjects are kind of to do with like the environment and the world,
Mhm.
I guess.
Mm.
Do you think those kind of interests kind of like made you more inclined to obviously do something more outdoorsy than like opening the bike park?
For me, yeah, definitely.
I mean, from my perspective, I got into biking fairly close, I'd say. It was only a couple of years in, wasn't I, when you came up with the idea.
Yeah.
So I was fairly new to it, but I've always loved the outdoors and being outside and hiking and mountain biking for me, when I discovered it, felt like the most natural fit for me. It's the only sport I've got into, and I'm like, I'm actually quite good at this, like from day one. Like I've always been like average at things and like, you know, steady and pretty good for like, but this, I really hit it off with biking. I loved it. I was fairly ambitious and fearless from
Mhm.
day one, I'd say.
Yeah.
Oh.
And for me, the environmental side was definitely a huge part in wanting to do this and sort of work in something that's outside. And I've been a passionate mountain biker since I was about 11. So like 30 years I've been riding for. So the idea of doing something in that area was really important to me. But probably the other big thing was I just wanted my career to be an adventure, because I'd had a job straight out of uni I was an ecologist for a bit, which was like good work in that I felt like I was doing something valuable to society, or ish. It was kind of working in construction, so it didn't feel super valuable, but I worked for a company I really liked. But I kind of went to work every day and spent my time on a computer doing something that was just like pretty repetitive and dull. And I was probably a year and a half into the job, and I was sitting in front of my computer, and I was 22, 23 at the time, and just thinking, whoa, do I want to do this for the next 30 years of my life? And I sort of questioned myself, and it was a definite no. I was like, whoa, no way. I don't want to spend my life doing this.
Yeah.
So that was when I struck off and started a career in mountain biking. I started emailing some people who I'd met the first year when I was in Canada. I landed a job working for a bike brand back in Canada.
Wow.
And yeah, just sent them an email, said I'll do any job you've got, anything. I'll clean the toilets, I'll do whatever you've got.
What did they come back with?
They came back with an amazing job actually, which was running a demo tour. So they had a fleet of bikes that they wanted the public to ride, and they gave me a truck and a trailer full of these bikes, and they sent me off around Canada for 3 months on a big tour, visiting shops and
Really?
doing these demos. And I got to travel the whole country and meet loads of people and ride in all the best places, and it was really good. It was hard work, and it was lonely because I was just literally just a guy on my own.
Oh.
And every town I went to, I had to stay in the house of the local bike shop owner. So I didn't stay in a hotel. I like knocked on the door and was like, "Hi, I'm the guy from Kono.
Oh.
I'm staying with you for the next week." So I'd be living in their house with their family, having dinner with them every night. So it was pretty full on for 3 months.
Was
But
it nice
great.
though, meeting like
Yeah,
new
it was great.
people?
I had a way better experience because I wasn't just going from hotel to hotel. Every town I stayed in, they wanted to show me all of their best trails and take me to the most interesting places and eat in their favourite restaurants. And so it was really cool.
And I guess maybe staying in the hotel, it might be a little bit more lonely. If
Yeah,
you're
it would have
on
been,
your own.
yeah.
So at least you get to knock on the doors, you can I stay
Yeah.
with you. Oh.
So yeah, I just wanted my career to be an adventure really. I didn't want, like working in an office. I'd done it loads when I was younger like summer holidays from uni and stuff as well. And I literally felt like a caged animal working in an office. I just couldn't deal with it.
Just wanted to get outdoors.
I always found your story and your progression and how you basically turned down what most people would consider a really good career choice really inspiring. I've always thought that it was incredible.
To me, it was just
walked
like,
away from all of it.
It wasn't even. It was like the easiest decision ever. It was just like, if I carry on doing this forever, I'm going to be miserable.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I'm not doing that, and I just don't think I'm cut out to sit in an office and do what someone wants me to do. Yeah.
Oh, so obviously in school it's a different experience for everybody. Everybody's faced challenges, everybody has their positives and things like that. So Anna, this is more of a question for you, but how did you find school whilst managing dyslexia?
So I didn't know I was dyslexic at school. So I only really found out when I got 3 C's at A-level instead of my predicted 2 A's and a B. I quite often would end up getting, like even with GCSE, my predicted grades were higher than what I ended up achieving. So it was then when I got those 3 C's, which wasn't enough to get into Bristol Uni to study geology. I didn't meet my grade requirements.
Oh.
So I remember very hungover phoning the university being like, I haven't got the grades. Will you still take me? And then they did an interview with me and they said, yeah, we'll still take you. And at that point I was like, oh, I should really get myself checked out. And at that point, that was when I got diagnosed as dyslexic. So I got found out at university as a young adult that I was dyslexic, and then got all my extra time and like help that they gave you at that time. But really the extra time in exams was, I found, what made a huge difference. So I ended up getting a first at uni, which is...
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Not just the first, you got an award for being like the best
I got top in my year.
of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now kind of as a whole then in your education, how do you think the skills that you learned along the way helped change maybe your mindset to now, really?
I mean, I actually think university for me was an experience in growing up. Nowadays a very expensive experience in growing up, but it's the first time really you're on your own, away from your family, having to sort out your foods and budget and save money and have enough to get drunk and have fun. And then you're also, it's up to you if you choose to go to lectures. So it's the first time really that you're again making that conscious choice to be like, I want to be here, I want to learn. The amount of effort that I get is what comes out the other side of it. And I think it taught me to write better.
I was going to say the same thing. To me as well.
Yeah.
Learn to write properly. Knowing your audience and what needs to go into things and the structure of report writing. I'd say that's probably what uni gave.
Because being on your own is scary, so I guess obviously going to uni, you're on your own, so you have to obviously get used to it. So
it's a tricky one, because I wonder if you spent 3 years living away from home in a job, you would learn many of the things that you learn at uni. I'm sort of I've had mixed opinions of it. Like, I definitely took a load away from uni and I loved it as well. I had a brilliant time. But if I'd have gone and lived in another town and got a job doing whatever, I would have learnt loads of the same skills that I learned at uni and would have got paid to do it rather than having to pay to do it. But there are certain skills that you pick up at uni. They're just a little bit hard to pinpoint, aren't they? It's like you said, I definitely learned to write much better at uni. You get honed in that way a bit. Probably to speak and present a bit, but we didn't do tons of it. Like we did some practicing of like public speaking, but not
I was
tons.
awful. Absolutely awful. Hated it.
So yeah, it's quite hard to know whether it was actually like formal education that helped shape us. I've definitely progressed way more as a person in my career than I have at university, but then my career has been a lot longer than the time I was at uni. So I think doing this business has been a bigger education for sure than going to university, definitely.
Yeah. What do you think your most memorable experiences at uni? If you could just pick one.
Not sure I'll be able to share them.
No, I don't think you should share any of those.
You think, oh, there's so many good times in there.
I remember being on the downs and drinking in the sun and playing frisbee and just chilling out with friends. I think I had the most spare time I think I've ever had. Like the most available time for downtime and socialising.
Yeah.
So
And for me,
there
was. For me, it was like I had a great group of friends and we lived together, and it was just that feeling of being so tight with our friends. And they're still my best friends now. They unfortunately live all over the world, but we were and are like brothers, and that was just like, it was such a great time to just be able to live with your best mates and have adventures together. In the summer holidays, we would normally go back to our houses, live with our parents for a bit and work and earn and save money, and then we normally manage to scrape enough together to do a week or two on holiday somewhere, and we would normally either go to the Alps to go biking, or we would go down to the southwest of France and go surfing for a week. And we would properly dirtbag it. We'd be sleeping on the beach, we'd be eating nothing but pasta for a week, and have no money to do it, but we kind of made it happen, and it was great.
The memories as well, I bet they were amazing.
I remember driving down to the south of France with 5 of us, with 5 surfboards, tents and everything we had in a little Fiesta, all the way down to the south of France. And we got there, we drove through the night, and I think we arrived at 3 in the morning, and just tried to sleep in the car, and it didn't work, and we all piled out and we were sleeping on the floor. And I remember waking up as the sun rose, and there was just like people half in, half out of the car, and as the sun rose, we just got the surfboards off the roof and went straight in the sea. And,
that was so
yeah.
nice. I really want to go to the south of France. So did you go travelling? Was it whilst you were in uni?
Before.
Before.
So I took a year out before uni, and I worked in a ski resort for a winter. So I worked in Morzine, worked as a sort of chef's assistant, basically, in the kitchen, learned to cook a bit. And cleaned the rooms and was just kind of the dog's body. Drank too much, learned to snowboard, had a good time. And then afterwards I worked in my dad's company for a long time, doing the most boring job in the world. So this shows how long ago it was. They were going from having paper copy, it was an insurance firm. They were going from having paper copies of everybody's claims records to having digital copies of their claims records. And something had gone wrong and they'd had to go back to having paper copies. So I was having to print off individual claims onto paper and then put them in files and then put them in a shelf. And I did that for months. Literally just printing documents for months.
How many do you think you did each
Thousands.
day?
A day, hundreds. Yeah, hundreds a day. So I did that job, and then I went to Indonesia to go surfing for about 6 weeks and travelled around and went to Komodo and saw the Komodo dragons. Surfed, saw most amazing live coral reefs.
Did you go with your friends from uni?
No, this was before uni.
This was at school.
So I actually went I went out with a friend who I'd met when I was doing my snowboarding season, and we actually met 2 friends from school who were on their way around the world, and I didn't bump into them. We arranged to meet them out and travel with them. So that was great.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
And then, so after university now, Anna, did you say that the first career you went into was at KPMG?
KPMG.
Is that correct?
Yeah, big accountancy firm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went down the list and hit accountancy audit as my the first job that came up.
Yeah.
I got sold on the fact that it was like, you're good at maths, problem solving, working in a team. I'm like, tick, tick, tick. Yeah, that all sounds great. Got into it and I was like, this is awful. What am I doing?
So you did not enjoy it?
No, not really. No. I can't lie. That job was awful. And I remember in the first year, like I'd started it and I'd done got to Christmas and I was just like, okay, this is a bad choice. And I had to sit exams, and basically if you failed an exam, they kicked you off. They kicked you out of the company and you're fired.
If it was just one exam?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I had to sit 6 exams. So if I failed any of them, you're out. It's really cutthroat.
That's a lot of pressure.
And I just was like, if I fail, I'm done. I'm not going to go and find another accountancy firm and try and get into it. So I'm like, no, I'm not sure this is right for me. But I kept passing them, which was it was quite annoying. But in hindsight, like I couldn't have picked a better career for what we ended up doing, because it's so, it's
Oh, we
so
couldn't-
useful. We
couldn't have done the bike park without Anna being an accountant. No way, no chance.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh.
so I did that.
So do you think like the careers that you kind of went into before you opened the bike park, do you think that they improved like your professional growth in a sense?
I just don't think it would have happened without having the skill set that we brought, particularly to the pre-opening of Bike
Yeah.
Park. I don't think it would have happened. So, you know, Rowan brought in expertise for trail building and all of that costing, and also like his overall experience, because he's like Mark, he's been riding since he was young, into it. Mark brought his side. Now Mark's really good at marketing and sales side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I'm
we
really
kind of missed a bit of that between working in a bike park and doing this. I had a career in marketing in the mountain bike industry for 6 or 7 years before we started the bike park.
So Mark had loads of contacts within the industry as well. So, and then Rowan's now wife Liz, she came from like a construction background. So she did
Through QS, a quantity surveyor. Yeah.
So between the four of us, we had like fairly unique skill sets to bring into it. So yeah, I mean, really, it started with you and Rowan, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And he came back with this idea. He was like, I've just spoken to Rowan, and he's had the same idea of me as to set up Bike Park. I'm like,
Oh.
you phone him, phone him, Mark, and talk to him about
Yeah,
it.
you kind of pushed me into it, didn't you? Because I'd had this idea bubbling, and but I did pretty much have like an epiphany moment where I was like, wow, this really is a good idea. This could work. And Rowan and I think, I can't remember the details. We'd spoken to each other vaguely about the concept a couple of times, and then I think maybe we'd gone to Cornwall to do this job, and we talked about it a bit, and I spoke to Anna and said, well, we both seem to be sort of thinking that this is a good idea at the same time. And you were really like, you need to do this. Like, this is a great idea. You should definitely go for it. So I think I called Rowan and arranged a meeting, which I remember clearly sitting in his kitchen. He had a house rabbit at the time, so I remember this rabbit bouncing around the kitchen while we were having this important, life-changing discussion, and decided that we were going to join forces and create this business plan. And then I asked Anna to help with the financial model for the business. And I think when Anna read the business plan and was doing the finances, I think you were like, this is a really good idea.
It was before that.
Yeah.
I remember as soon as you said it, I was like, yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Wow.
And initially Anna was like, oh, I'd like to invest in this.
Yeah.
Because
I
she
can
had a
see
previous
it. As
boyfriend
soon
and
as-
sold a house and had a little bit of money that you wanted to invest.
Yeah.
And yeah, you initially just wanted to invest, didn't you?
Well, I was doing both. I wanted to invest, and I was happy to do a business plan. So
Yeah.
I hadn't planned to get involved
Yeah.
beyond that. You know, put the money in.
Yeah.
But I think as time went on, we realised more and more that we basically needed Anna to be involved.
Yeah, you kind of got stuck with me.
Yeah.
So did you all have like the attributes then to
Yeah.
come together and make it?
That's something that I learned afterwards, actually, after I set up the company, that is a big determination of success, and that's to have people. It's a triangle of success in business, and one is sales, one is marketing, and one is accounts or finance. And you need to have someone, you need someone with expertise in all three areas, because that's where most companies fall down. They don't have the financial experience, they don't have the marketing, or they don't have the sort of the sales element and the product.
And we were really just lucky. Like, we hadn't planned it that way. It just worked out that we had this team that had all the skills. And I think at the time we didn't appreciate each other's skills as much as we should have. And I think we've learned in time to really appreciate what each other brings to the table a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Do you think then, if say one of you wasn't in it, do you think the bike part would have gone ahead?
No, I
don't think it would.
I think
you would have come unstuck at some point. I mean, you could have put in an accountant, but it would have been costly.
We wouldn't be able to
you
afford it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and without like the experience, from Rowan building the trails, I mean, you had done some trail building, but just not to that scale or level, and you wouldn't have been able to take it on.
No. So no, it needed all of us to make it happen. Yeah.
So can you guys maybe recall a time? So obviously there's a lot of positives with opening the company, but there's also some setbacks, maybe some challenges too. Can you recall maybe a time where you experienced that?
Many, so many. Like, it just felt. I mean, even getting to the point, where to start?
Yeah, there's been many
where to start?
things,
I guess if we go in the right order, one of the hardest things was actually getting awarded the tender itself. So we had to do
competitive
competitive
dialogue.
dialogue.
So although we had the idea for the business, it's on public land and there was a public grant.
Yeah.
So they basically had to take our business model, publicise it, and say who would like to build this business.
Yeah.
And it was
They take
our
your
idea.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so you put in your best idea to them in this competitive tender, and then they take the best idea out of whoever put it in, and then they put it up to full tender. So they basically took our idea and went out full tender. So we could have not won it. They could have then just taken our idea and given it to someone else, and it nearly happened. We nearly didn't get it.
And that took 2 years, that process.
The whole process took 2
And we
years.
had full-time jobs doing other
It
things.
was really tough.
And we were trying to win this tender and write this business plan and raise funding and do all these other things, get sponsors on board. So that was tough. We worked for years for nothing.
Yeah.
Years and years for no money at all. And even when we started the company, I didn't take a salary out of the company for many years after it had even started trading. And you worked for like nothing, for very, very little pay.
I mean, I think about half of what I could earn in the market.
Yeah.
And the hours were insane. Right up, like just as we were starting opening, I remember doing like 7 days a week, 6 till 10. And I did that for 3 months and then I broke. I was just like, you can't.
Wow, that is long hours.
It's really long. But it felt like it was our baby. There was no one else. You just did it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like, it was really hard work.
Yeah. But I guess it shows that commitment, it pays off.
You kind of have to, I think. Like, I doubt there's many businesses out there that happen without the founders having to struggle, like at the beginning. And for many years, you just have to, just grind away at it. Like, it's easy these days with social media to see these founders of tech companies who are sitting by a swimming pool in South Africa having a great time and all this, but they would have had to have put the grind in at some point. Like, they won't have just clicked a finger and been successful. Everybody has to put the time in and the hours in. And I think the good thing that we all had between us was that we were all willing to work hard, and we're all tenacious. We won't give up.
And we didn't have kids.
And we didn't have kids. Yeah.
I don't think I could have done it with kids.
Yeah, we had no kids and we had no house. We didn't own a house. So
because all that money was in the business.
we'd invested
Put every penny into the company.
But that was a positive, really, because we had to take risks as well. We had to take financial risks. We put every penny that we owned into the company. And if it had gone wrong, it would have absolutely sucked and we would have lost all of our money. But we wouldn't have lost our home. We didn't have kids to look after. So it was easier to take those risks when we were in our early 20s. I certainly wouldn't do that now.
So, Martin, did you say obviously that you rode bikes from a young age?
Yeah.
And then Anna, you got into it a bit when you were a bit older.
Yeah.
Do you think obviously biking is what obviously inspired you to open the bike park in the first place?
Yeah, definitely. Biking is just, it's a kind of way of life, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle, and you definitely feel like, or I certainly did, a real sense of belonging when I found it as a sport.
Yeah.
And it felt like something, particularly at that point, that not many people knew about. It was fairly extreme. People always looked at you slightly crazy when you're like, oh yeah, I'm going downhill mountain biking in the Alps. And people are like, what? And then it's even more stranger when you're like, yeah, I'm quitting this job to start a bike park. And they're like, what? Yeah.
So was there a moment then when you opened the bike park where you thought, this is the right path for me? Was there any kind of like feeling, or did you ever have a day where you thought, yes, this is definitely what I want to do? Or any like certainty?
I mean, I remember when we were setting it up and I was still working at RWE, and they had a gym there, and so I'd go to the gym and I would be doing like a 12-minute turbo set, and I'd do that every day. And I remember listening to my headphones with mountain bike music and being like, yeah, come on, I'm gonna set up a bike park. This is not my life. I'm gonna set up a bike park. And I was just so
it's like manifestation.
Yeah. I just thought about how I was so excited to be escaping from, the man and the big company and the big corporate, and it felt really liberating to be doing that. and I don't know like when it became real. I'm not sure at what point.
I'm sometimes still not sure it does feel real. Like 15 years later, I still have days where I'm like, actually even today I was walking up from the car to the centre and I looked at it and I was just like, how did this happen?
Yeah, it's weird when you take a step back, isn't it? Because you get so entrenched into it and you get entrenched in the detail and who's done which bit of their job or not, and then you almost need to pull yourself back and look at it and look at all the people who are there and how happy they are and how most people look really, really enjoying themselves, and you're like, how have we got a place that employs like 90 odd people?
Wow.
Who are, yeah.
So obviously owning a bike park is obviously a personal journey as much as it is like a professional one as well. So what do you think that you learned about yourself along the way?
What are you looking at? You're looking at me. I learn more from having children, if I'm being honest.
I think it's learned more from both. For me, it's that not just me, but all of us can be very tenacious, and that we've got a lot of reserves, and that we can really just break walls down and keep going and don't give up. And we've pulled each other along. You know, there have been times where all of us have been at the end of our tether, and then someone within the group has been like, "No, we can do this. Let's get through it."
You mean me?
No, we've all had our times, some more than others. But yeah, I think I've learned that we're tenacious and we are capable of way more than I ever thought we were. So much more. Like where we are now, when we started this, in my wildest dreams, I never would have believed that it could have grown to what it is now. No way.
Well, when we started doing the business plan, we did the financial model and we sort of worked out, we're like, right, how many people from Wick come go to Whistler? And I'm like, can we achieve that in a full year? Because they're only open for a period. And put all the figures in. And then Martin and Rowan both sat there and went, no, that's too many people, we can't do that. I can take some more people. Yeah, no, that we need to put some more cost in here, so I put some more cost in. And I'm like, and slowly but surely the profit is going into a loss, and I'm like, you're killing it, guys. Like, you have to stop this. If this is what you really think, it doesn't work. And in the end, everyone thought we were a bit more bullshit and put in some figures, which we smashed. Even like the first year of opening, we smashed our targets and budget. So. Yeah.
When did you open it? Was it 2013?
Was it? Yes, August.
And then obviously not long after that, COVID-19 struck, and obviously it affected a lot of companies. If you don't mind me asking, how was it for you? How was it for the company?
I mean, it's a very strange time when you look back at it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we saw it coming. You in particular were very, very adamant that we needed to close before we were told to shut. We didn't close much before.
2 days, I think.
We were 2 days before.
We were starting to get a lot of pressure from the public because, when you look back, like you said, the whole thing was just crazy. But it was before lockdown started. There was all this news about this virus in China, and then ski resorts in France started shutting. Actually, Rowan was in France when it happened, and he was messaging us, and we were saying, "What's happening in France? Are they closing?" And he said, "No, the president's just been on the news. He said nothing's going to get closed." And then 6 hours later, he sends a message saying, "We're getting kicked out of the country. They're closing the resort."
All happened fast then.
Yeah.
So we knew it was coming, and then the public perception, people started wanting to cancel their uplifts because they didn't want to be sitting in the bus with people, and it felt like the public pressure was building, even though people were still getting on the London Underground together on flights and trains and buses and whatever. I think we just felt we needed to do the responsible thing, and we closed our doors.
Yeah, and it was, I remember at the time being like, saying to staff, at this point we were like, everyone is now on half pay, and I worked out we could probably suck all of our cash and we'd do half pay for I think we could do 3 months. We could survive, and then we'd have to.
So this was before they'd announced a furlough scheme or anything.
Yeah.
So we'd sort of invented our own furlough scheme before they announced it. And I remember holding a meeting with everyone and just telling them we've got to close our doors. There's no money coming in. We've still got bills to pay. We've still got your wages to pay. We'll pay them until we bleed out, basically.
So,
and then a couple of days later, they announced the furlough scheme.
And I was like, yes! I was like, oh my goodness.
But there were lots of ups and downs that went on for most of 2 years, and Merthyr, where we are, was hit really badly. So we'd have Merthyr specific lockdowns. Wales was in lockdown more than England was in lockdown.
They didn't
And
combine
England and
them
Wales
at the
were
same
locked down
time.
at different times, and all our customers come from England and we're in Wales. So there were times where, most of them, where Wales was open, so we could have opened the bike park, but England was closed. So there was no point in opening
So
because 90% of our customers
yeah.
come from England.
So did you have to wait then till the day
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
decide?
And I've never been so politically active in my life. I'd be lobbying the government,
Yeah.
I'd be calling ministers, I'd be writing to people, just like, what's the answer going to be? When are we going to know? Because we couldn't just like clip our fingers and open our business as well. It took us days of work to just get it ready to open again. And sometimes Welsh Government would just make an announcement like, right, okay, we're going to be removing the lockdown tomorrow. And you just be like, he was trying to preempt it.
And then people haven't booked on and they can't get in, and had to deal with social distancing on the buses.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we had half.
And the masks as well.
Yeah, masks. We had half the number of customers. we normally
Sanitisers.
could, so we
Yeah.
couldn't turn a profit.
Plastic sheets.
Oh,
Yeah.
Stressful time.
Yeah. And
It's
actually,
really
it fell at a
hard.
time where we were in the middle of a big construction project. We were building a new visitor centre, so we were financially not in our strongest position because we were spending loads on this new centre.
Yeah.
And the builders were literally halfway through the build when lockdown was coming, and I just had to call them in and say, guys, we'll pay you for everything you've done up to today, but you've got to go home. We'll call you when we're ready. And
they
were
were
off
good
site
about it.
for a year or so, and then came back and picked up the tools and finished the job.
Wow.
But yeah, they were really good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that wasn't a fun time, and we were managing the 2 kids at home. We had the entire company on furlough apart from myself, Anna and Steph, one of the other ladies in accounts. So we were the only people keeping the company alive, and we were spinning so many plates.
With little people.
With 2 kids at home, sort of taking it in turns to work. But yeah, thank goodness we live in the forest, and
And
we
it was
were able
sunny.
to go out, and it was sunny. And
It was
when we weren't working, one of us would just go into the forest with the kids for hours. So.
I can't. I was really happy. You got really annoyed with it, didn't you?
Yeah, you
So I
were
was
loving how quiet it was.
I
And
was like, it's quiet and I'm alive and I can breathe and
Yeah.
we're in the forest, not in London, and I can go out and I can
You can go on
escape. I've got
walks
to
and-
walk.
Yeah.
So I was just like,
whereas I was
Oh, I
like,
love
people
it.
are dying, our business is dying. And it was a reflection of the way that we're wired. I was a positive thinker, and I can tend to be a bit negative.
Oh, so opening the bike park was obviously an amazing achievement. So what advice would you give to anybody starting up their own business?
so there's a few bits really. I think you need to be in the right space and be prepared to give up your life for it. Because I think if you're not prepared to put the time and effort in, like it won't. Like I think sometimes that's why things don't succeed.
And be really honest with yourself about that, because it's easy to say, yeah, I'm willing to give it everything, but actually when it comes to it, and you're not able to go on holiday for years on end, you're not able to go out and see friends because you've got to stay in and do stuff. That's the reality of it. It's missing
Or it can be,
stuff that you want to do, and making those sacrifices for a long time. So you've got to be honest with yourself that you're really willing to do that.
And I think if you set it up with other people, I think it's really helpful at the beginning to be really clear on who's doing exactly what role and what that entails. Because I think we did it to a degree, but I don't think we were quite clear enough as to what role was bringing to the table.
Yeah, and there was bumps in the road getting that bottomed out. We got there in the end, but yeah, it was hard at times. And I think you've got to really believe your idea is great, because if you are sort of like, I think I've got a good idea and I'll just give it my best shot, unless your idea is great, it probably won't work. The statistics suggest, I don't know what they are, but a small number of businesses succeed. So your idea's got to be great, and you've got to be prepared to work really, really hard. I mean, we make it sound also negative, but it can also be amazingly rewarding. And you get we're so lucky to feel that we've created something and to be able to see it. We've been really lucky. We had a good idea and we worked really hard, but we've also been very lucky.
And we timed it with grant funding that was available, which made it
And we timed the
So
market
big,
just right.
yeah.
You know, the sport was really growing, and we've been very lucky in so many ways. So
Yeah, we really have.
Wow. So if you could go back now, like take a step back, and then give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Care less about what other people think.
That's a good piece of advice. I think I need to take that as well.
Yeah, I'd say, probably that, and probably don't worry so much. Don't stress out so much. It'll probably be fine. I definitely get quite stressed and think things through very deeply. But yeah, I think yours is a good one as well. Yeah, don't care so much about what other people think or say, especially with the world of social media today. We get, 98% of the feedback we get about our bike park is great, but there's 2% of people who are just going to be horrible about it, whatever. And I can definitely be very guilty of only listening to the 2% who are being nasty and not listening to the 98% who are saying nice things.
Yeah, that was actually leading me on to my next point. So obviously with that, if you get that negativity, is there any kind of strategies to kind of I guess you can say not look at it, but is there any ways that you can kind of
If there is, I don't know them. You're way better than I am. You tend to just ignore it.
Well, I think it's important to take it with measure. So if it's the same comment that someone's complaining about the same thing, I don't know, the chips in the cafe are cold, and you get that repeatedly, there's a problem. If it's one person shouting out to say, oh, when I last rode there, I don't know, the trails were really boring, and you'd be like, that's one person's opinion, and it's conflicting to all this other positivity. So it's trying to weigh up and actually decide whether or not they're valid and whether or not you need to do anything about them would probably be the way I'd approach it.
I'd say my advice would be to not take it personally, but I do take it very personally. If somebody insults the company, they are insulting me directly. It feels like they're insulting me and my work. So I could definitely do better at that.
So now jumping then into the future almost, I actually saw on your website that you're aiming to be carbon neutral. Is that right?
By this year was the plan.
Yeah, in this year.
Yeah.
So what are the kind of steps that you're going to take to reduce the environmental impact?
Some of the big ones have already been done, haven't they?
Yeah.
So we put solar on a couple of years ago now.
18 months ago,
yeah. And we run off an all green electricity tariff. So that sort of side of things covered. We
carbon offset at the moment.
Yeah.
So until we get to the point where we can be carbon neutral on the site, and that would require electric vehicles that are powered by renewable energy, and that just isn't. It's just not possible at the moment. There aren't electric minibuses that we can use to drive people to the top of the hill in a viable way. So in the meantime, before we get there, we're paying a company to plant trees and offset all of our carbon production in the company. But the really big thing we're doing, which we launched last year, is we've signed a new agreement with the landowner, which is Welsh Government, whereby we've kind of drawn a line around the bike park, and that whole area is now a reserve away from commercial forestry. So they used to be able to come in and cut the trees down and sell them, and then plant them with more basically pine trees. They're not allowed to do that anymore. So the area is a bike park, but it's also a sort of reserve away from commercial forestry. So that hillside has been used for probably 200, maybe 300 years to just grow pine trees, chop them down, grow pine trees, chop them down. It's just been stuck in this cycle. And when they plant those pine trees, it's what we call a monoculture. Each tree is genetically identical to the one next door to it. So it's, in terms of biodiversity, it's a wasteland. It's just hundreds of acres of trees where there's no biodiversity. They're all the same.
You kind of see it as well in the forest, don't you? Because you don't get that many animals within that forestry environment, not compared to as you get in the forestry.
Yeah, we see animals everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. We see loads of animals in the Forest of Dean here, but in this forest plot you see none. And it's very dark. No sunlight gets to the forest floor, so no other species can thrive. So basically what we're doing is whenever we have an opportunity to do so, and we've just had that because we just had a load of storms that blew down a load of the trees. So when they get blown down, we clear them, And then we go in and we replant them with native species, so with oaks, with rowans, with beech and birch. And we will gradually, over the next 3 decades, convert the entire mountainside back to a native forest.
Wow.
So it'll be completely different to what it has been for the last 300 years.
Yeah.
And that's all being funded by Bike Park Wales. So people buying tickets goes into the rental income that we pay to the government, and then they are funding the work to change the forest. So that basically has created this reserve where we're rewilding, we're going to improve biodiversity, and it's obviously going to capture masses of carbon as well. So it's a pretty cool project to be involved in. It's 3 decades long that we've signed up for it. And we're just starting. We actually planted the first oak trees today.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
60 of them went in today.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a cool project, and it's nice that the bike park's been able to have a positive impact.
Yeah, and it does. So for anybody who hasn't been to the bike park but wants to, and maybe wants to get into biking, what advice would you give to them planning their first trip to Bike Park Wales?
If they haven't been before at all, we offer a package. It's called Ticket to Ride, and it gives you your bike, and all your equipment, and it will give you a guide who will take you up the hill and show you all the trails and introduce you to the site itself, which is a really nice way of getting into mountain biking if you've not done it before.
And they'll just take you on a green beginner trail. So it's like, you need to be able to ride a bike sort of competently, but you don't need to have been mountain biking before to do that.
So that's fun.
Yeah.
But if you've been biking a bit and you kind of know what you're doing, you can just book on the uplift and you can use the signage. We've got like a scale that ranks the trails from easiest through to hardest, and you can kind of like work your way up the scale,
Like a
like
ski
a ski
resort.
resort. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're ranked like green, blue, red, black, like a ski resort would be
Yeah.
for runners
Yeah.
as well. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the final question that I have for you both today. So again, looking back out on your life so far, what do you think are some key influences that shaped who you are today?
It's a very good question. I mean, I have to say my parents. I think they've been good role models. I think my older brother as well. He's always been a good target to aim for. He's always done well in whatever he's doing, and he's sort of set a precedent, and it's been good to have that to follow. Other role models. I'm trying to think if there are people who are kind of famous or well known, or I just think anyone who like lives their life by a code of sort of honesty and sort of trying to contribute to the world. For me, I can't think of a specific person who stands for that really, but those are probably the things I've taken from various people in life, is to try and live your life by being honest and trying to contribute to the planet rather than take away from it all the time. And I don't just mean environmentally, I mean socially and financially.
So I guess the biggest influence, I mean, you know, your parents obviously influence you as you're growing up, and then you get influenced by, by you and your freedom to suck in your job and move on. But I think it's, for me, changing as a person, and I think I mentioned it earlier, that having kids is the most humbling experience. You realise that you can't just be stubborn and be like, no. They don't always gone well to know. And there's often, my mum always used to say, "I'll pick your battles," and I'll be like, "What does she mean?" Don't be ridiculous. Every battle is worth fighting. And then I've had kids, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to argue over the toothpaste, like, or what bowl they're using, And it's just for me massively translated into my life, and it's made me realise a lot more that I don't always have to be the person with like the final word in a situation, that there are other ways to solve things. And I think having kids and watching you take up the reins when you took up the reins as CEO, I really saw it in you. And Mark you were good in so many ways you still are, for the company. Mark was very one of my favourite examples is, I'm sure was it £3,000 you spent on a sign, like Pearl's glowing sign, and I was just like, you what? What are you doing? And it's an awesome sign, it's brilliant, and it's really made it. But I just couldn't, like, from my accountancy side of things, it would have been a hard no. I'd be like, no, absolutely not doing that.
Wait, so did you not know that he bought it?
No, I just told her I'd
told
buy
me
this sign
buying
and it's
it.
going to cost £3,000.
I was like, alright.
Was that near the beginning?
No, that was during COVID,
Really?
actually, when we had no money.
Oh,
But
Yeah.
it was really important because it's like an iconic symbol of our company.
exactly.
And it's this amazing backlit red sign, it's the first thing you see when you walk into the building. So.
And it is really cool. I don't disagree, but I do remember being right there. So, but so it's sometimes seeing other people's choices, which aren't necessarily what you would have done, come to light, and actually you realise that maybe you're not always right in every situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Kids are
They're
they're a big influence, and they make you think differently about the world. Like when we were working out, what I was just telling you about the rewilding of the forest, having children was part of what drove me to push that direction with things, because you start thinking about like what world your children are going to grow up in, what they're going to inherit when they are adults, and trying to do something positive so that you leave, hopefully we'll leave our mountain in a better state than we picked it up. And having children has definitely been a big factor on that.
Well, thank you for letting me interview you both.
So
I really
welcome.
enjoyed it, and I hope to see you both soon.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.